Dragon's Dogma is a Capcom cult-followed game that only saw popularity over a few years ago, causing the company to finally greenlight a sequel that looks to be more of the same, with not much improvement. Also, they butchered vocations, and removed one of my favorites based on what we know at the time. That's going to take some getting used to. But forget about the sequel. Coming up next, let's focus on the first game instead, that being Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. This here is Capcom's attempt at mimicking the Western role-playing game with elements of Monster Hunter and the Dark Souls series. And yes, it's a mixed bag of an experience that has caused many to disregard its existence in favor of more approachable RPGs over the years like Skyrim. To which I'll never understand, because Skyrim and Dragon's Dogma are really not RPGs, but action-adventure games with tacky RPG elements like leveling akin to the Witcher series or Mass Effect. These are not true RPG experiences akin to Neverwinter Nights and Baldur's Gate.
You say it left a glowing scar?
Yes. The wound has closed, and it seems the worst has passed, but his heart lies silent.
If you would face me.
You are sure of this?
Yes.
Ill magic, the work of some curse. The whole world's already gone mad for fear of this dragon. Won't no good come of this. I must go see to the others, Kina. Tell me if aught changes here.
All right.
But still, let's jump into the game already and talk about the various aspects of Dragon's Dogma. We'll cover character and pawn creation, the story, combat and vocations, side quests, Dark Arisen expansion, and the problems with the game. The character creation is very basic and lackluster. You really can't make anything good looking. Even the females look like Bethesda NPCs at the end of the day. That's not a compliment. And you only have a few options for cosmetics like hair, scars, makeup, and colors. It's nothing to write home about, and I honestly just gave up and went with whatever the fuck this is at the end of the day. But then, you get to make your own pawn after becoming an Arisen. This is your personal pawn that you get to customize and decide what vocation and skills they will have and use. The other two pawns are borrowed from other players, or Capcom defaults if you've played the GOG version of the game. Overall, it's okay, but man, the sequel looks to fix this issue greatly with better character creation than ever before in a Capcom game. I'm looking forward to that game, when I can afford it.
Our fealty is sworn to you, Arisen. From this day, the Legion's men called pawns live and die by your command.
This story is incredibly dumb, boring, and generic. You live in a peaceful fishing village, and then the Fire Nation attacks your town. So you charge at it in peasant clothes, with a cheap sword to only get your heart taken out. Then the dragon eats it, and you become an Arisen. What is an Arisen? Who knows, who cares? Your goal now is to slay the motherfucking dragon. Yay. As you progress, you'll find the story worse and worse. As things become more convoluted on how to progress, you will need to look up Wikipedia guides on how to complete the main quests and side quests. It's one of those shitty classic, where the fuck do I go kind of games. Yep, real fun, Capcom. Real motherfucking fun. Thankfully though, once you beat the game and realize it was for nothing, as the plot makes no sense and the ending is a middle finger to your face akin to Far Cry 5 or Rage 1. Oh yeah, you're in for a real treat once you get to the end. Oh god, are you in for a laugh on why you wasted money on this game. Okay, so yeah, this game is quite polarizing, which makes sense, it's a Capcom game. So let's talk about the best aspect of Dragon's Dogma, that being the combat and vocations, as they call them. The game is very clunky and repetitive, as the world has nothing to do in it besides fight and move from place to place, fighting the same pack of goblins that hunt in packs and are weak to fire, and the same wolves that hunt in packs and are weak to fire. Thankfully, the combat shines when you fight large monsters like the troll, ogre, manticore, or even the drakes. When you get to fight the larger monsters, the game becomes fun. It's clear this is where the time and money went into. The game feels so natural and fluid in comparison to the small enemies you fight, especially all those snakes, spiders, and bats that only attack you. Your pawns never bother, and they also die in one hit. Those things are really annoying. But fighting giants with spells and climbing them to attack weak points, oh god, this is awesome. The satisfaction of chopping off parts of these monsters to weaken them, stun them into easy openings, and hitting them with a final blow to hear the music wrap up as the camera shows a cinematic of the monster dying. You feel accomplished, you feel like a man, you feel like you just had the best fucking sex of your life, smoked a Cuban cigar and ate cold pizza straight out of the fridge.
Excuse me, what?
This is where Dragon's Dogma is at its best. Just trying all kinds of magical elements and skills and moves to find the weak points and best strategies to deal with giant monsters. This is where this game is truly enjoyable. So let's hurry up and talk about the vocations next.
Hell, it's about time.
The fighter vocation is a generic warrior class. They use a single-handed weapon of choice and a shield. Their skills are all about the shield use. This class is built for melee encounters only, as they are useless against aerial and missile far-off threats. Though they can at least block arrows for themselves, but don't expect pawns to ever do that, as the AI isn't that great. That will be discussed later on. Then you have the warrior vocation. This is your generic long-sword tankish brute. They're built for punishment, and after building up their attack, and in turn punish anything stupid enough to get in their way. Those big swords and hammers can easily swipe at several foes at once. Some skills to know about the fighter and warrior is they can use their equipment to give assistance to their party members, such as jumping off their swords and shields to get up places. Good for when you need to get at enemies on cliffs, or to easily climb giant monsters to attack their weak points. But the AI doesn't really ever utilize these skills, only the player. so give them more obvious attack to dole out lots of damage skills instead.
We'll be fine so long as I'm.
Now onto the Strider vocation. These guys use a short bow for ranged attacks and daggers to go stabby stabby on anything in sight. Like a meth head in prison. They can utilize various dagger techniques to strike opponents fast and critically, but also jump higher and double jump, but also to roll around and dodge attacks, good for when facing larger monsters to weave in and out of combat. They can fire various kind of arrows and multiple of them too. They can fire strong single shots that can launch enemies away and over cliffs or unleash dozens of arrows onto foes. This class is indeed pretty OP, and a good one for pawns to use so you can focus on other vocations to master. Then there's the Ranger, a more advanced strider. They use a long bow instead of a short bow, which means more damage and range, but the trade-off is this class is slower to fire off basic arrow attacks and skill attacks with their bow. They're more vulnerable to attacks, but their longbow skills make up for it if they're given time to unleash them on foes. Next up is the Mage. Now we're in for the worst class in the game. Well, actually that would be the Sorcerer. The Mage is actually useful, just extremely tankish to play as. Oh my god, are the magic users tankish like an old school Resident Evil. Hell, they can't even melee with their staffs, they just shoot balls of light at everything, making things more clunky and time consuming when it comes to destroying objects to find loot.
Don't worry, I am here.
But thankfully this support class has its use, so give it to a pawn instead. They can unleash various element spells like fireballs, lightning strikes, frost cloak, or even allow them to levitate, which can be useful when platforming. But if they fall and try to levitate, they'll still take fall damage, which is kind of stupid oversight on Capcom's part.
We have triumphed.
I'll have a look around.
They can even enchant the party's weapons one at a time, so if facing certain types of foes like undead, you'll want a fire boon to easily take them out. Or if facing a spirit, you'll need any kind of elemental boon to damage it with normal weapons. They can learn more advanced spells that can silence foes from using skills and magic or firewalls and chain lightning. But still, it's my least favorite class to play, and that's coming from a magic user in every RPG that allows magic in it. I like burning people to ashes and healing myself and summoning armies of undead to fight for me. Was a necromancer in World of Warcraft for the Forsaken, and a spell sword in the Elder Scrolls. Now, let's hurry on to the Sorcerer. This review is getting way too long. Most of you probably already left, given your Zoomer goldfish brain attention spans these days.
It's funny because it's true.
For Sorcerers, they can utilize more powerful spells, but in turn they tend to be unable to heal the party. Yep, they lose various skills like Anodyne, Halidom, Spell Screen, and Grapnel. But they can still enchant the party's weapons one at a time. Yet because they can't heal everyone, this makes them more of a burden, as you will want to have some way to stay in the fight, as healing items are not that common, and they're quite expensive. So if you use the Sorcerer in your party, especially used by pawns, they will constantly get killed and need revival by you. So what kind of spells can they even use? Yeah, the spells are not that much more powerful, and by endgame you'll want a Strider, Mage, and a Warrior in your party. The Sorcerer is the worst vocation by far, so let's talk about the 3 hybrid classes, also known as the best classes in the game. So here's the Mystic Knight. These guys are a mix of magic and melee. They're basically more advanced fighters that can also cast spells of various kinds. They can use sword and shield, and also switch to a mage's staff if you have one on you, allowing both fighter-esque and magic skill combos. As such, the hybrid classes are exclusive to the player only, because the most powerful classes in the entire game. Mystic Knight can enchant everyone's weapons at once, unleash magic missile attacks with a ball that can change its element based on what's enchanted on your weapon. It can strike multiple times at different opponents as it locks onto everything within range before disappearing over time. And you can also enchant your shield to counter melee attacks and use elements to harm anyone who tries to strike them. This class is my second favorite, right behind Magick Archer. Now let's talk Assassin, who mixes the Strider and Fighter together for a mix of fast and hard hitting. They have no real magic usage. They can use daggers or swords, and then a short bow or a shield, mixing Strider and Fighter skills with new and more powerful ones to ensure they can critically strike foes and dodge attacks in turn. This class is another hybrid exclusive to the Arisen. Also, I'm not a huge fan of it. But then we have my personal favorite class, and one that's undoubtedly the most powerful of them all. This vocation combines magic and the Strider. This is the Magick Archer, the class I beated the game with, and one I want to keep playing as. They have their daggers and a magic bow, which are exclusive to this vocation. Again, another hybrid class exclusive to the Arisen, and easy to see why. This vocation can use basically everything the Strider can when it comes to skills, but also magic-based bow attacks like Hunter Bolt, which targets up to 10 foes or parts of a giant monster to unleash holy-based arrows from the sky, raining hell upon them. Or they can fire off single powerful shots infused with frost and such. Good for when dealing with the dragons, as they're weak to frost given their fire nature.
Careful, a goblin!
There are tools scattered about. Miner's kit from the lookup.
This vocation has many bow and dagger attacks, and once infused with an enchantment, you can really slaughter anything with ease. This is indeed my favorite class, and I will always prefer to use this one over everything else, though Mystic Knight would be second. The side quests are very stereotypical, generic, and boring. You just gather a certain amount of an item and turn it in, or you go and kill a certain amount of a certain monster, and that's it. You can also do the worst quest in the game, escort missions. Jesus fucking Christ, they just had to include the worst of the worst, and yes, in this game, it's the worst it's ever been next to Resident Evil 4 in its shitmake. You have to escort a brain-dead NPC to some random location and get nothing out of it except some money and experience. boring. They will constantly get in the way, run into danger, and get killed by the various monsters you have to fight non-stop as you travel to the random and pointless location. Also, your pawns will never shut the fuck up about hunting in packs, and they're weak to fire. Everything hunts in packs except the larger monsters, and everything is literally weak to fire basically. It's fucking stupid. Shut up.
The rantings of an up-jump zealot make for tedious listening. His ilk serves no role in what is to come.
Then there's these personal quests like helping Mercedes defend her honor. You get to watch the dumb NPCs fight forever or until you take a side. I honestly forget that she was even in this game because she's only ever in it for like a couple cutscenes and like 2 quests total. Or when you have to help Celine fight off a group of peasants who blame her for witchcraft, and you have to protect her and her home, which I gladly did. She's useful with potion crafting with various rare plants. Kind of need her around. Sometimes the quests are okay, like slaying several trolls, but then it can turn into a hellish experience with trying to find where to go at and what time and location for the Nameless Terror quest. Then you get stuck with several escort missions in a row with a soldier's survey, where you must escort 5 separate NPCs to different locations across the world. Oh, and they don't fight. All escorts just stand around and die easily, and you can't heal them, so be ready to restart as you smash your head into your desk like Asmongold.
I'm on my way.
Now that's the average feeling you'll get from playing Dragon's Dogma right there. Oh boy, is it. Now onto the Dark Arisen expansion. The expansion starts out boring as the base game. You meet a woman who needs your help. Gee, real original there. Damsel in distress. Definitely never seen that done before.
You are arisen.
Not funny.
This expansion has no real plot. It's more of a gauntlet of random difficult battles. At least that's how bad the storytelling is to make it out to be. Turns out they learned nothing from the base game's garbage writing and cinematics. Yawn. So here you just fight and 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 fight. Can you tell you can fight here? I bet Capcom couldn't. So let's run around fighting skeletons, goblins, griffins, ogres, trolls, spiders, bats, and snakes constantly. Then eventually fighting the spongiest enemies you'll see outside of a Monster Hunter game.
Based.
These guys can one-hit you even if you have good gear and high stats. Plus, the mentally retarded pawn AI just stands around. This leads to more frustration than ever. I honestly gave up when fighting the armored ogre, almost, who was changed to the wall, and then eventually broke free and took forever to defeat because I was the only one attacking it, and the pawns kept running into his attacks being instantly killed. I lost a pawn and several rare items they were carrying because of this. What a great game, Capcom. But then we have to fight through dark areas with water, making it easy to get soaked, and it's impossible to see because your lantern gets put out until you can dry off over time, or if you have an item that can dry you off. You fight giant lizards here and eyeballs that are immune to majority of attacks, before finally fighting a giant eye monster that doesn't really seem to take much damage. Pawns just stand around and die, and the monster can instantly kill everyone no matter where they are, well, with a charge attack that could barely be stopped. Yeah, at this point I just stopped caring, went back to the start with a life stone, and used rift crystals to uncurse items I found. Which turns out is a loot box system. Yep, loot boxes in a single player game. Oh goody, gumdrops. Yep, I'm done. Fuck this shit. I'm going back to the base game. Let's talk the shit about the game and move on to the score. I want to be done with this game forever now. The problems I have with this game are simple. The storytelling sucks, the plot is generic, the quests are boring, the gameplay isn't fun after a while, the combat is only good when you fight giant monsters, and the AI not being that great. Oh, and the Everfall. Dear God, when you get to the Everfall portion of the post-game end, oh God, you're in for hell. Good luck is all I'm going to say.
You ain't lying.
But these problems are not major. Especially once you complete the game and do a new game plus run, the lack of direction and awful pacing becomes a little less gruesome. Just be ready to use wiki guides on quests, namely the main ones you need to complete to finally get to the dragon on your first run. Oh, now that you mention it, I forgot to mention the forced marriage aspect of the game. As you play, interact with NPCs, do quests for them, you'll gain favor. Eventually, there's an aura that appears when talking to them.
This will take me a minute.
Bruh.
That signifies their relationship with you. This, in turn, will determine who the dragon kidnaps and attempts to kill at the end of the game, and who you will be married to. So be careful, as the game can make you gay, lesbian, straight, etc., and also marry you to some of the fuggliest characters. Oh, and the worst thing of all, cause you know Japan and its culture, is you can be forced to marry a child. Yes, there's a child in the game who you have several quests for, and in turn, she can fall in love with you if you're unlucky. For fuck's sake, Japan! What the fuck?
I ain't even going near that.
Now let's get this thing over with. Good God, is this probably one of the longest reviews I've ever written. At the end of the day, Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen was a polarizing experience for me. I hated it when I first played it years ago. It took me forever to get into the game. Even by the end, I was agitated by the many flaws of the game, such as the awful plot, the lack of guidance on things, the highly repetitive and clunky combat, the boring world, the lack of things to do, the fact pawns are useless most of the time, leading you to revive them as they stand around getting killed, and oh, so much more. But I did endure, completed the game, and tried out New Game Plus with the expansion. Finding myself enjoying the second go-around because the game is poorly designed and you need to know everything to have a decent time completing quests and knowing where to go. Which isn't a good design choice. It's bad, but expected from Capcom. They fuck up a lot more than people are willing to admit to. Still, it's a decent, painfully average experience worth checking out. But with the sequel coming out next month, there's not much reason to go out and play the first game, unless you want to see where it all started over a decade ago, and of course, to see if you even like the style of Dragon's Dogma. Also, this video took way too long to put together, too many paragraphs to record, too many videos to compile, and for what? Probably will get like 10 views like most of my other videos. I'm gonna go back to more basic style reviews for now on after this. This isn't worth it. Anyways, that's it for this video. See you all later.
How's your father's project coming along?
I think he's almost done. Yeah, he's done.